So it was January this year, Canva quietly updated its contributor agreement. So the people who design templates for Canva, the humans whose work made the platform what it is today, they're now banned from submitting anything AI generated. In the same week and the same site, you can buy AI generated stock images from Canva itself, sold as a pro feature. The platform banned the humans from doing the thing the platform itself is now doing for money. And that's just one example. The same playbook is running on 6 other platforms right now. Etsy, Adobe, Shutterstock, Udemy, Upwork, Fiverr. And it's happening at all of them at the same time, which would be a huge coincidence, wouldn't it? Except it's probably not a coincidence at all. There's a specific structural reason every one of these companies is doing this in 2026, and the reason isn't just AI. AI is just the lever. The reason behind the lever is something else, and it's the part most coverage of this story misses entirely. So, here's what I want to do in this video. I'll show you the pattern, I'll try and be quick, across all the platforms, and then I'll show you the actual reason that it's happening, the bit nobody seems to want to talk about. And then I'll show you actually what to do about it, because there is something to do about it. And it's much less complicated than people are making it. If you make any kind of money from creative work, especially on platforms in 2026, this is the video, so stick with it. The reveal is worth it. Right, there is a brilliant word that explains everything, and you might have come across it. There's this writer called Cory Doctorow, and he coined it in late 2022, and the word is Enshittification, which is a brilliant word. An American Dialect Society made it 2023 Word of the Year. I'm not surprised. It's not a new idea, it's just one most people haven't applied to creative platforms yet. He has a 3-stage model. First, the platform is good to its users. That's how it gets you in the door. Then, once you depend on it, it gets worse for you, so it can be better for its business customers. Then it gets worse for those business customers too, so the platform can claw all the value back to itself. And then it dies. Doctorow updated the framework for the AI era earlier this year in a piece for the RSA Journal. His argument, paraphrased, AI accelerates this hard because for the first time the platform can extract from sellers and replace those sellers in the same move. So the same investment, double the payoff for the platform. It's a brilliant deal if you happen to be the platform. And that's the framework. Now, let me actually show you what this looks like in 2026, platform by platform. And I'll try and keep this part tight because the analysis is just set up for what's underneath. Stock photography first, because this is where it's most blatant. Adobe trained Firefly, their image generator, on the Adobe Stock contributor library. So the photographers and illustrators who'd licensed their work to Adobe over the years suddenly found that work was training the model that's now bundled into every Creative Cloud subscription, the same model that competes with them. Adobe's response was to set up an annual contributor bonus. The bonus formula isn't public, but contributors started posting theirs on Adobe's own community forum. One reported $65, another $4.88. Now, this is the bit that genuinely made me laugh. Adobe's normal minimum payout threshold is about $25. Your balance has to clear $25 before they'll send you anything. Now, for the Firefly bonus, Adobe temporarily lowered that threshold to just $1 because the checks were too small to clear it. Then once the bonus had gone out, they snapped the threshold all the way back to $25. So they redesigned the floor of their payment system around the fact that what they were paying was below it, and there's no opt-out of training under the contributor agreement. You're just in. Shutterstock signed a 6-year deal with OpenAI in July 2023, licensing their entire image, video, and music library. Other deals followed, Meta, Nvidia, others. In March this year, photographers submitted evidence to the UK's competition regulator describing royalty drops between 50 and 85% year on year. Then Getty took the legal route. November the 4th last year, High Court Chancery Division. Getty largely lost. The court rejected the central copyright argument that AI model weights count as infringing copies of source material. Now, it's worth just thinking about that for a second. Getty are a public company with hundreds of millions of pounds of legal resources, and they brought what was probably the best funded creators versus AI case in the UK courts. And they lost the bit that matters. Which means if Getty couldn't get a copyright win on this, no individual creator is going to, so the legal route is closed. Etsy's slightly different, but the pattern's still there. Their transaction fee was 3.5% in 2018, up to 5% that July. Then up again to 6.5% in April 2022, a 30% increase on every seller's bill overnight. Around 5,000 shops went on strike. There was an 80,000 signature petition. None of it changed anything. The CEO at the time was a man called Josh Silverman. He was paid $40 million in 2021, the year before they pushed that fee rise through. Worth knowing. But the most telling part is in the financials. Q3 last year, Etsy's earnings filing. Marketplace revenue, where Etsy takes a cut of human-to-human sales, was down 1.7% year-on-year. Services revenue, where Etsy sells things directly to its own sellers, that's paid placements, ads, that sort of thing, was up 12.7% in the same quarter. The bit where Etsy makes money from sellers selling to buyers is shrinking. The bit where Etsy makes money from the sellers themselves is growing. That's the whole pivot in one line of an earnings report. Same quarter, Etsy went live as the first partner for OpenAI's ChatGPT instant checkout. Etsy's stock rose 16% the day of the announcement. Buying handmade goods, increasingly through a chatbot. Udemy and Upwork together because they're the same story twice. Udemy's instructor revenue share on their corporate course tier was 25% in 2023, cut to 20% in January 2024, cut to 17.5% in February 2025, cut again to 15% from January this year. Same instructor, same course, same buyer, fewer dollars on every sale. Class Central did the maths and worked out instructor payouts came in about $30 million lower in 2024 than they would have been under the old contract. Then late 2024, Udemy auto-enrolled their instructors in a new generative AI program. Course content used to train Udemy's models. The opt-out window was 3 weeks. After it closed, the toggle was greyed out for the rest of the year. The wording of the policy email, quote, "By opting out, you'll lose access to all AI features and benefits, which may affect your course visibility and potential earnings." Translate the vague corporate speak. Agree to be training data or we'll bury your course, and along with it, your money. Upwork's basically Udemy with a different colour scheme. Their freelancer fee was a flat 10% from 2019 through to last year. Then on the 1st of May 2025, they moved to variable structure, anything from 0 to 15% on new contracts. A fee that ranges up to 15% is a fee increase dressed up as flexibility. Then there's Uma, Upwork's AI proposal writer, embedded in the platform. Some job posts now require Uma-powered video interviews instead of cover letters. I don't know if you've ever seen those AI-powered interviews, but they are awful.
I'm sorry, but I can't help with that.
Help with what?
Sure thing. What's on your mind today?
Unlimited Uber access lives behind their $20 a month subscription. So you're paying the platform every month for an AI to write the proposals that you always used to just write yourself anyway. And if you really wanted to use AI, you were probably already paying for ChatGPT or Claude to do it for you. You're just being forced to... Anyway, okay, let's move on to my platform where I spent my career, Fiverr. Now, I made a video about leaving this platform only last week, which is probably how a lot of you ended up here, and I'm not gonna make another one. If you missed it, you can find it on the channel. But I'm gonna land one number because it's the loudest single figure in this entire video. Q1 results, reported the 29th of April. Marketplace revenue, $67.1 million, down 13.6% year on year. Annual active buyers down to 2.9 million from 3.5 million the year before. 600,000 buyers gone in 12 months. The CEO, Mika Kaufman, told their Q4 earnings call back in February, quote, "We are seeing a profound migration on our marketplace where humans are becoming more essential, not less. 600,000 buyers gone. The CEO is publicly saying humans are becoming more essential. The filings he's legally required to sign say that buyers are leaving by the million. Both of these things cannot be true at the same time, and the filings are the bit that get audited." Right, 6 platforms, same playbook, same year. Some of these companies have nothing to do with each other commercially. They don't share boards, they don't share executives, and they certainly don't share strategies. So why is this happening on every single platform at the same time? This is the part of the video that most coverage skips over, and it's probably the most important part. Because once you understand this, you can predict what every platform you're on will do next. Here's what's underneath it all. Etsy is publicly listed. Fiverr and Upwork, publicly listed. Udemy, also publicly listed. Canva is months away from a public listing. Adobe's in the S&P 500. Shutterstock and Getty are mid-cap public companies currently mid-merger. Every one of these companies has a CEO. Every CEO is reporting to a board. Every board is answering to public market shareholders. And public market shareholders, especially for tech and tech-adjacent stocks, want one thing above almost everything else: revenue growth. Year on year, every year, forever. Now, in 2020 and in 2021, that was pretty easy. The pandemic just pushed everyone online. Etsy's share price peaked at $296 in November 21. Fiverr's peaked above $323 in February 21. Canva's valuation grew from a few billion to 40. Then 2022 hit. Marketplaces hit a wall. People went back to physical stores. The easy growth stopped. And ever since, every CEO of every one of these companies has been answering one question every single quarter. Where is the next revenue line going to come from? Now, there are basically two answers available to them. The first is to extract more from the seller base they've already got. More fees, more paid promotion, more subscriptions, more services sold to the people already on the platform. The second is to find a way to replace some of the human supply with something cheaper, so that gross merchandise value can keep rising even when buyer numbers don't. In 2026, both of those answers are AI answers. That's the whole thing. That's the load-bearing point of this video. The same structural pressure is producing the same response across 6 different boards in the same year. Once you see the pressure underneath, the pattern stops looking like a coincidence and starts looking like exactly what it is: a perfectly rational response to the same question by everyone who has to answer that question. A few things follow on from this, and they all matter. First, this gets worse before it gets better. The pressure isn't going away. AI capability is rising. Marketplace growth is flat or falling. The CEOs who have to answer for those numbers will keep reaching for the same lever because it's the lever that's working. Second, the legal route is completely closed. Getty showed us that. Now, there might be future regulatory action, but on a timeline that's much longer than your business can wait for. Third, buyer-side rejection of AI work is real, but it's also slow. There are documented cases of buyers genuinely furious when they discover AI behind a human service. Again, I only got to look at my comment sections from the last video to see evidence of that. We're talking chargebacks, refund disputes. That's a moderating force, but not enough to stop its trajectory on its own. Fourth, and this is the one that matters the most, your moves as a creator have to reflect the structure underneath, not the headlines on top. Headlines change every week. The structure doesn't. Which brings us to the actual useful part of this video. Right, so what does the move out actually look like? Less complicated than a lot of people make it. The whole thing is a single sentence. You stop depending on a platform's algorithm to introduce you to new buyers.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
And you build a direct relationship with the people who buy from you. You've probably heard that before. We'll get into it. Honestly, but that is it. That's the whole pivot. In practice, it looks like 4 things, and you don't even have to do all of them. Most people only end up doing 2 anyway. First, an owned audience, a newsletter, a Substack, a YouTube channel, social media handles, whatever. Somewhere where people can find you without a platform deciding whether or not to show your name today. An email list doesn't have an algorithm. People who signed up to hear from you get the email. Second, direct client relationships. The work happens between you and the client. The invoice goes between you and the client. There's no platform layer taking a cut, no success score, no contributor agreement update arriving in your inbox in January. Third, products you actually own, a course on your own site, a template pack, a piece of software. The thing exists separately from any platform's permission to keep selling it. And fourth, presenter-led work, being on camera like this, being in voice, being attached to the work in a way the buyer can verify. On current evidence, that's not yet replaceable by AI. And that's the moat, and it's quite an edge that's worth quite a lot in 2026. Now, I've been doing some version of this since 2020. In 2026 so far, my direct billing has actually overtaken my Fiverr revenue for the first time. The migration didn't happen by accident. It was the deliberate result of building owned client relationships, slowly, over years, while I was still on the platform. The longest running of those direct relationships is now 6 years old. Same client, monthly cadence, no platform between us. So, my advice, if you're sitting on a platform right now and reading the writing on the wall, find a buyer through the platform, then build the relationship somewhere the platform can't reach. Use the platform as the introduction. Use the email list, the direct billing, the owned channel for everything that happens after the introduction. And do that while you can still afford to be on the platform, not after the platform has made the choice for you. You leave knowing what the pattern is, why it's happening, and what to do about it. What that move out actually looks like for someone making the shift in 2026, that's going to be one of the next videos on this channel. But if you want a head start in the meantime, I've put together a free guide called the Off-Platform Playbook, and it's at my website, joshfaulks.co.uk, link in the description or the pinned comment. It takes about 20 minutes to read. Grab a coffee in the morning, chuck it on your phone or your iPad, give it a read. If the pattern in this video matched what you've already been seeing on your own platform, then subscribe because there's quite a lot more coming on this. Right, let's get on to that next thing.